Welcome to the Community Championship podcast, hosted by me, Matthew Williams, Tournament Director for the Community Championship. Today, I'm joined by Vanja, ITF tennis coach and tennis agent for Rafa Nadal Academy. She is an elite professional coach working with top 100 players on the women's tour and is a coach educator for the ITF. Good afternoon. So my kind of first question to you, and I think it's going to be a really interesting one, is do you think that confidence is contagious?
I would say maybe it depends of different situations, but in this case, the tennis and me being a coach, I think it's not. I think it's totally opposite. Being confident, for example, myself, confident, and the person that has a lack of confidence, I think I could create more problems than help. On the other side, I think that being a confident, having actually a confidence, it can create maybe better situation that you can help with encouraging and motivating the player or someone, if we speak general. But I don't think so if it's a contagious.
Now, that was a really good answer and an interesting way to think, is confidence contagious? But how do you think that you get confidence as a coach, as a player? How do you instill confidence into your players?
As I said, I think me being a coach, my job is to guide the player. My job is to help the player to find his own solutions, which means that he's reaching his goals. And I think exactly this is the confidence, how you developing and getting the confidence is by achieving your goals. And I don't think so that on a different way I can, to give the confidence to someone. And I don't believe that you naturally gain the confidence. It depends a lot of your environment, a lot of what you do, about your experience. How we lose the confidence. We lose the confidence while we think that we fail on something, we didn't complete our goals. So I think it's what we need to do, how to develop the confidence is by reaching our goals. And this is how we can help to others. So I don't believe that only me being the well confident, I will help her. I think it needed to be that you yourself, you build your own confidence by achieving your goals and making your results better and better every day.
Well, that's really interesting. So I'm really excited today to dive into the world of professional tennis and tennis coaching with you. So my first kind of question is, from your vast experience that you have, what are the key ways to develop young players, do you think?
To develop young players, so let's say like this generally, on the first is the player himself. Second important thing is the parents, environment, the coach. So all this, what I said, is an environment around the player that has to be supportive. We all have to be the people who guide. By support, it must be the financial support, of course, support of the parents and support of the coach who's going to guide the player.
So to help parents and players understand, like, what is a good kind of guideline or a good schedule for a tennis week? Let's just take kind of the age of 10 to like a 14-year-old tennis player. How does their tennis week look if they're wanting to develop?
So under 10, we can play every day with the player. Let's say we can have a practices every day. But it depends of what do we do. We can have 2 hours the session, but it depends what we do. We have to be careful to not come in the situation that player is going to be burnout. This is one important thing. So it's all depends of what actually we plan to do with the player, on what we actually work on. So let's say sessions are normally every day during the whole week. You can do 1 hour and a half, 2 hours. If it's sessions with a group, with the sparrings, you can add the 3 to 4 hours per week, some individual lesson where you focus more on the technical part. Plus, you need to have the fitness. Yeah, under 14, I'm talking about, that they can have 2 to 3 times the fitness. But as I said, it doesn't maybe work with all the players. And also, the coaches have a different philosophy, different points of view, and doesn't mean that some different view incorrect. Somebody can do something in 1 hour that is really too much, yes, for the kids, let's say under 10, and somebody will do 2 hours something that it's totally fine for this level or the skill of the certain player.
Obviously, you're currently an agent and tennis coach at the Rafa Nadal Academy. So would you mind just sharing with, as I say, parents, players, people that would be interested, our listeners, on how does that week normally look? And just kind of walk us through a week of what is in the academy for players. And I know obviously it would be different maybe for different age groups, but let's pick our elite tennis players that are looking to maybe branch into the senior tour from the junior tour or junior tennis. What does a rough week look like at an academy like Rafa Nadal's?
Well, I'm Rafa Nadal in Mallorca because at the moment I'm in Kuwait, but we speak about the academy in Mallorca. The thing is that most of the kids, they go in school also. So their schedule, they practice 2 times per day. Let's say during the morning, they start with the fitness, where is included the warming up in the morning and before the sessions. So they practice 2 hours in the morning. They finish, they go to their lessons, to the school. Then after again they start, they have more 2 hours, which means they practice 4 hours a day. Then also some of the days they have 1 hour 30 minutes, but mostly they have fitness every day. But the fitness coach is in a well communication with the tennis coaches, and as a tennis coach, you always need to know what's the player done in the fitness. So very important, because different is a big mistake. Everything is adapted to the players.
You've mentioned 2 things that I find really interesting in sport. One is the terminology burnout. I'd just like to explore that first one. So what do you think creates burnout for tennis players?
I think it can be no motivation. Depends. It can happen that they lost completely motivation for tennis. Certain things, either they start losing the matches. It depends of which age we are talking about. If we talk about the high performance, can be this lack of confidence, losing the matches. Then after is coming losing the motivation. Also, the younger ages, sometimes I would say it's sometimes it's creating the bad programs for the kids, which means this where we spoke earlier. Sometimes the coaches or the parents can burn out the player. For example, I'm coming from the Balkan countries, and the biggest problem there for many years is that they have fantastic, very good players until the age of under 14. And then under 14 and up, the kids are burned out. So this is what I'm talking about, the program of the coaches and including the parents. I would say there is a part of the parents that under 14, when the kids are very good, and they are top 10 or top 12, top 14, they are very excited and they want to push, and they're putting even more pressure on the kids. And that's why it's happening, this problem of burnout.
In your opinion, should tennis players focus on just tennis, or should they look to try and play multiple sports? When do you think they should kind of specialize in that one discipline?
We say for tennis that it's very important to start with the young ages. Me personally, I think that I suggest actually the parents, when they bring the kids to the tennis when they are at the age of 5, 6, 7, I suggest them to do more different sports and to let the kids to be creative, which is very important, to develop from the beginning motorics, good coordination. It's a very good to be in a different sports. And then I say, like, also it again depends of the kid. If he's a kid with very good skills, and even if he start after 8 to 10, if he done other sports, he can catch very quick. I mean, there is a lot of kids, they came at 5 at tennis, they stay only in tennis. It's also fine. The really good thing is if the kid like to do some other sports before 10, before under 12, it's very good for them to do. And also, if is the tennis the first sports priority, after the tennis, it's also very good to go out to, let's say, to play football also, or to be in part of some team. But you have to also adopt everything to not be, let's say, too much.
Okay, that's a really nice approach to that. I mean, sometimes I think we hear in tennis that we should specialize early and we should be hitting like 400 balls a day and not doing anything else. So I think it's nice to have an approach to be kind of well-rounded and versed. So
no, the first thing in tennis, it's not hitting the balls. It's not the how we hit the ball. It's what we want to do with that hit. We have to focus the kid. We have to make the kids to focus on the tactical part of the tennis, which is important. And from the young ages, we have to create creativity in them, to give them some problems to find the solutions, how to solve the problem out. And with doing the different things, I think they're gonna better create these abilities. With the different sports, of course, it can only be helpful. But in the one moment when they have to turn more professionally to play, of course, they're not going to have time. But before that, I think it's very good.
We spent obviously a lot of the initial time on looking at younger players. Obviously, you have some experience and wealth within the senior ranks and ITF players and players that have, made top 500 in the world. What are some of the challenges that you've seen from maybe being a top 250 player to becoming a top 100 player?
Usually I say that it's not so hard. I mean, it's hard, but to reach from, let's say, 500 to 300, then to move to 200, you work a bit more. But from 200 to 100, I think it's only the special ones coming. What I mean by special ones is the really hard workers and the ones that they have the best wish, I think, the best motivation, that they exactly know what they want. So from 200 to 100 is much more harder to come than from 500 to 3. And I would say for these players that I work on, what I find is the biggest problem is financial part is the first thing. How they finding the ways to stay on the tour, because it's very difficult, as we know that they still don't earn any money until they become top 100. So it's very difficult. And what I want to say is that they are dealing with a lot of pressures. The ones are this part, as I mentioned, financial. The another part is how they're going to play, and when they arrive on the tournament, they are worried about the moment, and also they worried how they're going to manage everything to pay. It's really difficult. They really have to be big fighters. I think from 200 to 100 is a big job.
And when you're training those players and working with those players, I mean, obviously they've got to travel all the way around the world. So yet again, when you're looking at what is the slight difference between maybe an elite junior player and a top 100 tennis player within their working week? Are they doing more strength and conditioning, less tennis? Is it more on refined skill? How does that differentiate between the two age groups there?
Well, the juniors players, when we start, we focus more on until, let's say, 15, 16. We focus a lot more on technical parts, tactical. Then in certain age, we start working also more with the strength and conditioning. And then later, we are focusing more on the mental part. So where is the difference? With the high performance players, I would say mental part is the first thing. Then strength conditioning is always on. That is, you actually do maintenance of the technical part, tactical part. Sometimes because of your opponents, you have to do some change. You have to improve, but mostly is the mental part. With the juniors, we still working on improving more, making better the technical parts, tactical parts. Mental part is always included. Now it's just a question where we do more or not. And the one thing to say, to not forget, in the high performance, why we say it's a mental part the most important is because we do on all the things, of course, the strength conditioning, the nutrition, the technical part, tactical, everything. But all of these we couldn't do if we don't have mental skills. So that's why it's not only mental part when we are on the tour, on the court, but if we want to work very good with the strength and conditioning, it's very important mental part for this, because we need to be motivated. We need to have a good discipline. We need to come on time. We need to give our best, give the maximum. This is mentality.
Wow, that's really interesting. So let's take it back now to our junior tennis, because one thing that's always got me, especially at the moment in the world of sport, is this element of being competitive. Are games meant to be competitive? Are kids meant to be playing tournaments and matches, or is it just meant to be having fun? So what do you value as important? Do you think that children should be playing tournaments and competitive matches?
Yes, of course. So I always say, I always connect the sport to the life outside of the court. So I think the sport is there not only for the fun. The kids are learning a lot of things through the sport. Being a competitive is very good for the kids to develop this for outside life, of course. So I would rather explain the kids it's yes, always there is a fun, but we do the competition through the fun, something like this to stay together. Yeah. So if we are creating the little players, we want to create little professionals. It doesn't mean tomorrow they're gonna be top 100. This we don't know because for being even top 200, 300, there is a lot of things included that they are not depending of us, of me as a coach, of the player, but we are working like we are the best, like we are going to be that. Yeah, so because we want to first to make from the player the very healthy person, mentally wise, physically wise. I want my player to be brave tomorrow, because even if he stop playing tennis one day, he will be a competitive person in a positive, healthy way, that he will face very, very brave with his challenges in the important moments in the life. He's gonna stood up brave and make the decision. This is what we teach the kids in tennis. It's exactly how they're gonna react outside. That's why I say that. So let's go back to the competitive tennis. If we want to create player, then that means that every session of his, every day has to be competitive. And I always say this, and I tell this to the young coaches, that doesn't matter what we work on, even we work on technique, on serve, the lesson has to move and progress to the competitive way of doing it, which is really important, because we all face the one problem that many times the kids on the lessons, the coaches tell me this, and the players also, they play very good when it's club matches or practice matches, very good. When they go to the tournament, they got a lot of problems. So usually they have the problems with the things that they don't work on the lesson. If you are hitting the forehand on the lesson 50, 100 times and it's perfect, and you go on the match, you miss all 50 times, for example. So you have to practice the reality. You have to practice the reality moments that you have on your match.
Could you explain, say, a tennis serving session, or you're going to do tennis serving? How do you build that from a coach's point of view? How do you build it from a technical point of view? And then how do you develop that into a competitive framework, or how would you do that? I think that'll be really interesting for people.
Well, first, we have to analyze. Let's say we started with analyzing, then the important thing is coaches many times they focus on the visual view of the serve, which is not always the best way to analyze the serve. I would say you have to see the player. I always give the player to play a few points with me. So then it's important what's happening on opponent side with this serve, not with your arm or with your foot only. So we analyze tactically what he is not able to do. You understand? So where is his mistake? And many times the young players, I ask them, because they need to know that. I ask them, what is your problem with the serve? And then maybe he would tell me, I make many double faults, or he's gonna tell me I make many side outs or whatever. And then we first do, I say, diagnose. I find where is this problem, and then we go to see what is happening technically, why he's doing this. So you focus on this problem at the beginning, and then, for example, with the basket drill, you also can make competitive. You can tell him, okay, we do this, you have to do this and that, and let's try to make it from 5 at least 3 times correct. And then if it is already competitive, more motivated, more focused, yeah, and then you progress this. Then later you will tell him, okay, now we play, you have plus second shot, it's not only the serve, I'm saying this as an example. And then all the lesson can be in a competitive way. So you're giving him some problem to solve, you give him some goal to complete, and then at the end you are moving him to success. And the important point is that we need to know that to create the lesson, so every lesson at the end has to be successful. So if we progress and it's not going, we have to regress a little bit back. We have to find a solution so the player needs to make the success.
What an answer. You have mentioned the word fun, and I just want to understand from you as a coach, like, where do you see fun sitting in children's development? Is it important? Is it integral? How do you create fun as a coach in your sessions?
It's very important. Fun has to be always there. Hard work and fun. And now it depends how good you are as a coach to combine that and to always keep the players to work on the goal and to have fun. So I think sometimes in the people have this naturally, and some people need to work on that. If you start thinking from your side, from yourself, when you work hard, it's better if you have a little bit of fun. It's normal. And with the kids, I think that especially today kids, I think it's the first thing when they come, they have to be motivated. And we are the motivators. So the job of the coach is not only the instructor, there is a big list of our job, of the things that they are coming under our job. The very important one is the motivator. So I think start with the ages when they come first time on the lesson. If they have fun, they're going to go out and they will tell to their parents, wow, was great. I want to come again. So this fun is usually something competitive. It means that they work hard, but you give them some goals, as I explained earlier. If you give the kids goals, then you need to balance this with the hard work. So this is something I was always using, and it was always working, and it's easy to change those games. Sometimes you also need to have empathy. This we forgot. Empathy is very important. So the kids are not coming every day same like we don't go as a job every time in the same mood, so we have to understand also the kids and we have to listen to the kids. So many times I ask the coaches also, do you ask the kids how are you? Let them speak to you. So if you speak to the kids, sometimes they will tell you I had a horrible day. Sometimes we ignore this or we never ask the kids. But then I change my lesson. Sometimes I change the lesson. I'm not going to put the pressure on the kid that day. Again, it depends. You're going to speak to the parents also after, it's important. But sometimes you need to have this empathy to feel. Once happens in my club where I worked many years in my country, I had one very good group every day. They were playing hard 2-3 hours every day. But I remember one day they all came in a bad mood, the whole group. And it was the days when they have testings in the school. And they seems to be very tired, very disappointed, very hard day. And I said, what would you like to do? They were all hungry. And I said, but did you have a lunch? Yes. But I think it's mentally exhausted, make them tired. And this day, I told them, okay, let's go to eat. We went in the club restaurant. We didn't have the practice because I felt on their face they needed a break. So we sit, we had a lunch, we had fun. They start laughing. And I said, okay, free day today. We continue tomorrow. Tomorrow they were incredible on the lesson. So this is sometimes very important for us. Sometimes we push the kids too much, but also we have to figure out the kids that they don't take the use of us also. So this is our job to recognize the situation, the moment.
One thing I would say from being in the privileged position to be able to interview so many great people and talented people, I think most of those have had the same trait, and that's that emotional intelligence to understand when they need to push their athlete, when they need to look after their athlete, when they need the stick or the carrot, and understanding how to be adaptive. And I think those are the key things, or some of the key traits that we see from people like yourself and professional people in business, that they can be adaptive and they can create change and they understand the individual or the team or the environment to get the response. Leading from that, do you feel there's a difference between coaching girls and boys tennis and the environment needed to make those environments work?
Yes. On this question, I always answer like I say that generally, if we speak in the life, there is a difference between man and woman. And it's the same in tennis. Definitely, we women are different than the men's. And always we need to pay attention on this. And something I was talking a lot for past 2-3 years, which I realized on the woman tour, that with the women's, I would say you are, I speak now about the high performance and the good juniors. With the women's, we have a lot of work outside of the court, which means a lot of conversations, a lot of mental part, psychological part of tennis, of the life, because this is something they need, and they need to feel good so they can go on the court and play good, which means men's also, but the women's needs are much more. And the biggest difference, I would say, is that the men's still they are still playing tennis, even they are top 100, and they live from that. This is their, let's say, income, the only thing they do in their life. But still, when they go on the court, they play a game. For them, tennis and the tennis match is still a game. And with the women's, I think it's a different, because when the women are coming on the match, they bring this, I always say, the bag they bring with themselves, and they bring one more full of heavy problems, always emotional things. The women are understanding the tennis game much more personal. And this is exactly like it's outside of the court, because we are thinking more. And when I talk to female players, many times they're bothering themselves with so many things that these things never happened on, or they were scared for no reason. Then the girls have bigger problem with the self-confidence, or I would say they need a time for fighting for feel self-confident, and then very quick they can fail. So what I trying to say is that with the girls, for them, it's very important that they have the person next to them that is all the time open to speak to them, to guide them, to motivate them, to push for their self-confidence all the time. And then you can work with them on the court. Then it's much easier. With the men's, you can tell him anything. You can be very aggressive, sometimes very tough, but he's gonna maybe forget that in 5-10 minutes. The girls, no, they gonna remind you on that after 1 year, and we can be blamed for that, for example. And one important thing with the junior girls, I face that they are very hard workers. When you have the girls in the club, you give them information. The one information, it can stay for 1 hour. So it shows that the girls are very good workers, very good disciplined. Every coach that coach the girls needs to understand the way of communication to them is totally different than the boys. So with girls, we need to be more patient and careful.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't just learned life about tennis, but probably dating life and world advice there. That was a great answer. So, you've talked about before, and we know that you're involved with Rafa Nadal Academy, that is, an established academy. What do you think are the benefits for children to be a part of a tennis academy? What do you think it can teach them?
And the good thing of the academy is that there is the players in the one place, and you have everything inside the one place. So when sometimes there is in the one town, one country, I don't know, there is a certain good players, but it's very hard to have them all together. Yeah. And for them to join the similar program. The biggest problem of this is the sparring partners, the my level of the game. For me to develop and improve, I need the guys my age, my level of play similar, so I can compete. This is we go again to competitive thing, yeah. So inside the academies, let's say the big academies, usually okay, it's coming the similar players, the good level players, and at the same time they push each other because they are competitive. Sometimes if my level is lower than yours and you play every day with me, after some time you're going to give up. Inside these academies there is always competitive work, hard work, competitive, fun, all together. And in the one place you have your fitness, you have your strength conditioning, you have your psychologist, all this what I said before you can have inside the one academy, which is very good. But when you are turning pro, 16 years old, 15 years old and up, then you need your own coach one-on-one. It's very important, I think, for developing to the professional. And then you can join the academy with your own coach to enjoy the things, but you need to be individual with your own coach.
So you see the academies as a place where the best can play against the best to improve. That's the element of it, that you've got competitive games and that's how you get better.
Exactly. Because, for example, if I have the player under 14, let's say I'm a good coach and I have a good player, but I cannot help this player if I don't have the good environment for her, because she cannot play every day with me. Or if I have two more players, she's gonna not grow and develop better than inside the academy, where she has more players that she can play. You need a different opponents every day, different ball to feel from the other players, and also the atmosphere inside the academy is working. It's hard work, and so even if earlier you were less working, for sure inside the academy, the others gonna push you to work more.
Wow. Now we've touched on a couple of these earlier, and I think you have done it, but I'd love to just to get a little bit more if you can. So if I'm looking back to 10 years ago and maybe a Pete Sampras or a Boris Becker or an Edberg, and now I'm looking at like a Rafa Nadal and a Federer or a Venus Williams versus, going back to a Steffi Graf, like it looks like the players are stronger. Is there more of a emphasis on strength and conditioning and a better understanding of nutrition and mental health within tennis now? Or?
Well, it's true. Yeah, tennis is changing. Tennis is becoming more, let's say, faster and faster, because the players are improving more and more. So let's say it was an incredible change when appeared Nadal, Federer, and now the Djokovic also. So the things are changing. So when you have the good player, the fit player, the well-conditioning player, for you to compete with him, you also need to reach the level to play against him. So this is, I think, how the things changed. And the tennis it became much faster. Mentally, what it's changed is more pressure today in the tennis match. There is more sponsors, more money, more everything. And I think the players playing under the more pressures, and this also is one part of the mental thing. Also, the worldwide the things are progressing and changing. So I think that strength and conditioning, the biggest improvement is that it's happening on the court. So if you realize now the top players are traveling with the tennis coach, with the fitness coach, and sometimes also mental coach. It's coming because fitness became it's impossible to play tennis without a good physical conditioning. So I don't know if you realize also that the fitness and tennis are now one lesson at the court, because me as a coach, I do together lesson with the fitness coach on court at the same time. This is something what is changing and progressing very far. And there is many fitness coaches that they turn to be specialized for only tennis fitness coach. I think this is the progression for 10 years.
Could you elaborate how that working relationship and how a session looks between a strength and conditioning coach and a tennis coach working together, how that would look for people so they can understand it?
So coach himself can do fitness on the tennis lesson on court also. But what means on strength conditioning fitness lesson? It's some certain things that we can do on the tennis lesson. So also this is something that you can bring the fitness coach to do. If we feel that the player needs power with a shot, we work on power and strength, let's say, on court. During the lesson, we can start to improving that with the medicine ball. We can use the medicine ball, then this to progress again to the hitting shot, something like this. If you want to do the speed, you will use some runnings on the one shot to increase the speed. So all this, if you work with the high performance, usually they have their own coach. But with the younger generations, I think that now will be the newest that the tennis coaches will start also delivering the part of strength and conditioning. So I think that every lesson that we do, we are able also to give part of the strength and conditioning. And that as I give you the example, is the absolutely same. If the fitness coach is on court, he's gonna go do his part. Either is that the power and strength, either is a speed, either is agility or something, whatever. And then the other part will do the tennis coach.
Interesting. So we are nearly there. The ending question: if you could pass on a lesson to improve someone else's life, what would it be?
let's say what I face a lot with the players and trying to help them, most of them, is that when the important moment comes, you have to be decidable. You, in the important moment, instead of moving back to defend, you have to decide and attack, which means in the important moments, you have to be brave. This is the one thing I try to learn my players. And every day we have to work on ourselves. We are the only competitor to ourselves. There is no anyone else that we have to compete to win. We have to win ourselves every day, over again and again, to be better every day.
Wow, that's amazing. I agree. I always say you're only ever fighting to be the best person that you are. And thank you for giving us so much of your time. And from me, I think just 3 points I'll take away from this is the element of fun, the element of being competitive, and making sure that you create a great environment. And I know that listeners, parents, coaches, players will find this really, really insightful. So I'd just like to say a huge thank you for giving us, the knowledge that you have and spending a little bit of time with us trying to explain that and go through the fundamentals of player development. So thank you so much.
Thanks for calling, Matthew. I wish you all the best.
Thank you kindly. And thank you for listening to this episode. The Community Championship is the biggest sporting event in Aramco history. The opening ceremony for the finals is happening in Central Camp on the 26th of March from 9 a.m. Showcasing the finals of junior touch rugby and the 10K. With live music and entertainment, food stalls from around the world, and fun activities for children to get involved in. We look forward to seeing you. Keep listening for the next episode of the Community Championship podcast.